Congratulations. Against all odds, you were conceived from a single cell to a fully grown baby in just 9 months. Amazing. You are a miracle, and so am I. What you are about to see was my journey. It was also yours.
This baby is about to be forced from his calm and comforting cocoon and thrust into a noisy, bright and terrifying new world.
Wonderful. Good girl. A little bit more from it. Wonderful. Good girl. Keep coming. Keep going. Keep going.
A new generation of 4D ultrasound scans has opened up a window on the womb, allowing us to see the development of the fetus as never before. During his odyssey in the womb, the fetus has learned to grasp with his fingers, to smile and frown. He can recognize his mother's voice and even dream, all before even being born. During ejaculation, a mature, healthy man expels up to 500 million sperm inside a woman's vagina, and the journey begins. Each sperm carries its own copy of the father's genetic code. With a basic sense of smell, the sperm, the smallest cell in the human body, sniff their way up the fallopian tube towards the egg, the largest cell in the body. Each month, a woman's ovaries release one egg, containing her own genetic code. She made these eggs while she was still a fetus herself. They've been kept in storage ever since, through childhood and adolescence, and on into adulthood. It may take up to 10 hours before the actual moment of conception, and the mother may be completely unaware of the secret events inside her belly.
And so begins my journey through space, a microcosmos. Planets, asteroids, molecules, chromosomes, constellations swirling, a genetic whirlpool, worlds within worlds, a Russian doll of universes, bursting at each seam. This is a human being. What you see is a human about to be. I cannot talk, or think, or feel. I am in limbo, but at least I am. I have passed from isn't into is. Until now, I wasn't, but now I am. A promise made by the past to the future. A beginning. I am the beginning of flesh made word.
Inside the fertilized egg, the plans for this new human life begin to unfold. The genetic code is stored in bundles called chromosomes, 23 from each parent. Each microscopic chromosome contains over 2 meters of supercoiled DNA. Along the double helix of the DNA molecules lie the patterns of chemical codes that hold the key to our uniqueness, our genes. It is our genes that tell us to become a human rather than a bird or a tree, as well as deciding exactly what kind of person we will be.
The genetic code is a set of instructions for the cells, a sort of manual giving directions that tells them how to grow. Am I already cast in stone, or can I break the mold? St. Francis of Assisi or Al Capone? Which will I be when I'm old? My DNA has lots of presents waiting, and I'll find out on my birthday what it brings. Secretly, I'm hoping for a nice pair of wings.
Our parents make an equal contribution to most of our genetic makeup, but the sex of a child is all down to the father. His sperm can be one of 2 types, X for a girl or Y for a boy. Although they won't know it for many months, for these parents, it was a Y sperm that won the race, and they're going to have a boy. The genes he has inherited will have already predetermined his looks, much of his character, whether he's stubborn, intelligent, a thrill seeker, or good at music, and even his vulnerability to certain diseases like cancer, schizophrenia, or diabetes. The exact course of his life will depend on many things: his friends, his family, his whole environment. But at the instant of fertilization, much of his future is foretold. The fertilized egg continues its journey, traveling along the fallopian tube towards the safety of the uterus. About a day after fertilization, the egg makes its first division.
On cue, the nucleus splits in 2 and my cell divides. Who's keeping time? Who makes the decision? The watchmaker with 20/20 vision.
This process of division continues as the clump of cells travels down the fallopian tube. After 4 or 5 days, the tiny ball, now called a blastocyst, has grown to around 100 cells, and it begins to divide in two. The outer ring of cells is destined to become the placenta, while the inner clump will become the embryo itself. At this stage, these inner cells are all identical. They are dividing rapidly and are known as stem cells. They have the remarkable capacity to turn into any one of over 200 different types of cell and grow into any part of the human body.
Imagine drops of water, frozen into the perfect shape of snowflakes, each one unique. Then imagine snowflakes tossed into the air and falling to earth, frozen into the perfect shape of a snowman. I am being pulled in all directions, could go anywhere, become anything, and yet it feels as if nothing is left to chance.
After 7 days, the blastocyst reaches the end of the fallopian tube and arrives in the uterus, its home for the next 9 months. The embryo is now starting to take shape. During the 3rd week, the embryonic ball of cells, no bigger than a pinhead, folds in on itself to form a long tube. The top of the tube will become the head, while the trunk of the body stretches down below. The head doesn't look much like a head yet, but at day 15, nerve cells begin to form in the brain and in the spinal column, exposed and totally unprotected by skin or bone. Signals flicker through the neurons, and the brain sparks into activity.
Is this it? The point at which my life begins? Cognition switched on. Now there's food for thought. I am. Therefore, I think.
Inside her body, the mother is creating a safe environment for the baby to grow, protected from the dangers of the outside world. As soon as she becomes pregnant, drastic changes sweep through the mother's system. Her blood volume may leap by up to 50% to cope with the extra demand for oxygen from the growth in her womb. Once the embryo embeds itself in the uterus, it will start to draw from the mother's bloodstream all it needs to grow. One of the first recognizable organs to form is the heart. Without a heart, there is no way of spreading around the food and oxygen the embryo needs to flourish. Until now, the heart has been a dormant clump of muscle cells. But after 22 days, it bursts suddenly into life, when still just the size of a poppy seed. One cell spontaneously contracts, triggering its neighbors and setting off a chain reaction until all the heart cells are beating.
Someone, tick-tock, has put tick-tock, a key tick-tock in me, tick-tock, and so tick-tock, my life, tick-tock, has just tick-tock begun, tick-tock. How long, tick-tock, will this tick-tock go on, tick-tock, go on, tick-tock, go on, tick-tock, go on, until...
Later on, when the nervous system is more developed, the brain will carefully control the rate of contraction, keeping it steadily beating and pumping for the rest of the child's life. If he lives to 75, that will be 2.75 billion heartbeats. Some women will already be aware of the hormonal changes inside them and may realize they're pregnant without the aid of a test. For others, this thin blue line may be the first clue to the dramatic changes that are about to take place during the next 8 months. After 4 weeks, the embryo is as big as a kidney bean and is growing by about 1 millimeter every day. With the heart now pumping nutrients around the body, other organs begin to grow. Black dots on the head are the beginnings of eyes, and buds are forming along the body that will become arms and legs. At this stage, the fetus still bears signs of our evolutionary past. The spinal column extends beyond the leg buds to form a tail. There are rudimentary gills behind the ears. These relics will disappear as the fetus grows, but at day 30, even an expert would find it difficult to tell just from looking at it if this embryo is going to become a human, a pig, or an ape. Just 1.5% of our genes make us human. We share 98.5% of our DNA with chimpanzees, 3/4 with dogs, half with fruit flies, and 1/3 with daffodils.
Come closer. Look at me. Do you recognize yourself? For what you see is what you were. To a summer rose, do I compare?
After growing for 8 weeks, the embryo looks more like a tiny human and becomes known as a fetus, which in Latin means offspring. He has reached an important milestone. His placenta is now mature.
Time to welcome my other half. All-giving, all-knowing, whose sole purpose is to keep me alive. Inseparable, the two of us until birth, when the one without the soul will not survive.
Until now, the embryo has been dependent on the nutrients he could extract via his yolk sac, a floating balloon connected to the base of the umbilical cord. A human yolk sac is not like a chicken's. It contains no yolk to store food, but for the first few weeks, it generates nutrients and blood cells for the tiny embryo. By 2 months, the yolk sac has become redundant and shrivels away. The crucial job of feeding and nurturing the fetus has been completely taken over by the placenta. The mother and fetus have totally separate blood supplies. But inside the placenta, the fetus's network of very fine blood vessels reaches deep into the mother's blood supply. Like the roots of a tree sucking nutrients from the soil, the placenta extracts everything the fetus needs from the mother's blood: food, oxygen, water, and passes it into his bloodstream. The placenta also filters out many harmful substances, like the hepatitis, herpes, or polio viruses that may be in the mother's blood. But it can't stop everything. Alcohol and nicotine, for example, can pass directly through to the fetus. Everything the fetus doesn't need, all the waste products, are siphoned out by the placenta and passed back to the mother's bloodstream.
Fitness coach, dietitian, always close at hand. Health advisor, organizer, each day carefully planned. Bodyguard, comfort blanket, angel is what you are. Self-sacrificing, self-effacing, placenta, guiding star.
Many women experience morning sickness during the early months of pregnancy, as the placenta releases a host of hormones. One of these, progesterone, is secreted throughout the term and prevents the mother releasing any more eggs. Others stop the mother's immune system rejecting the unfamiliar growth inside her. Nurturing, protecting, and controlling, the placenta is the nerve center of pregnancy. Internally, the mother will have been feeling the effects of pregnancy: changes in taste, mood swings, anxiety, and nausea. But now she will start to notice the first changes on the outside. She will begin to gain weight. She will be thirstier than normal, and her heart will beat faster as her body begins to work harder. his first 10 weeks, the fetus has been hidden from the world. But the mother is about to get her first glimpse of the secret events unfolding inside her womb. Between 10 and 14 weeks, a pregnant woman will usually go for her first scan. Ultrasound scans have revolutionized our understanding of fetal development, as well as our provision of care for pregnant women.
So here we have your little baby here. Oops, now there's a bit of activity going on now. Oh, yeah.
Professor Stuart Campbell
Wow.
of the Create Health Clinic in London is one of the world's leading experts in obstetrics.
See the head, the baby's looking to the side. It'll all make sense to you when the baby starts to move.
Okay.
This first scan
But
is
I'll
also a
stop.
chance to establish a more accurate due
This is the
date
baby's head.
based on the baby's size,
looking down
rather than
here, so
guessing
just
from the
the-
date of the last menstrual period.
There's an arm going up here, right on
The scan
top
can
of the
also
head.
show early, but not
And this is
conclusive,
cord going over the
diagnostic
right shoulder.
features pointing towards genetic abnormalities.
Just do the nuchal translucency.
Is that measuring the spine?
No, that's a test for Down syndrome. Now, it doesn't definitely say the baby's got Down syndrome or not, but it tells you if you're at risk.
Until recently, non-invasive research into the development of the human fetus has been restricted to analysis of stillborn specimens, or what can be gleaned from grainy two-dimensional ultrasound scans. But now this area of exploration has been revolutionized with the development of three-dimensional scans, and even more remarkably, 3D scans which move in real time, known as 4D scans.
Oh, look. Golly, wow, yeah?
See the hand in front of the face? They do that though.
For obstetricians, this tool has been the equivalent of the Hubble Space Telescope, and for the first time, it has been possible to open up a window on the womb and to see babies growing before our eyes. These images show the incredible range of behavior that even a very young fetus is capable of. These 4D scans are some of the earliest ever taken inside the womb. This scan shows an embryo of just 6 weeks old. Here is an embryo of just 8 weeks, less than 3 centimeters long, making its first movements. Obstetricians can directly observe how the fetus grows, how it behaves, how it reacts to stimulation, how its reflexes help it prepare for birth and for survival outside the womb. Professor Campbell, a world-renowned pioneer of these new scans, is responsible for taking these incredible images. This scan shows a 30-week fetus yawning, and this one, a 32-week fetus, exploring the feel of its nose.
Lights, action, here we go. The magic of ultrasound, and it's on with the show. I don't like the title, although it's obviously true. I play the leading role in A Womb with a View. But seriously, I'm nervous. Will they like what they see? If I'm not the perfect baby, will it be curtains for me?
Ultrasound scans provide a crucial service in predicting any possible complications in pregnancy.
Nice, yes, the
But they
profile.
also
There's
offer a
the arms
beneficial
going down
role
very soft.
in developing
See
a
that?
bond between the baby and his parents.
The baby's kneeling. You see that?
Yeah.
Hopefully get a lovely picture. Now the baby's looking down now.
Seeing your baby's face and expression while it's still inside the womb can be an intense experience. And such early bonding can provide an important boost to the baby's development once it's born,
Top of the head.
and to the
you see?
long-term relationship between the child and his parents.
And that's the arms there.
Mhm.
Here we are. Now, see the arm going up to the face.
As well as checking the health of the baby, this scan will be the first opportunity to tell if you're pregnant with one baby, or two, or more.
Twins, twins, alike as new pins. Triplets, quadruplets, even quins. Sounds cosy, but overcrowded, I'd say. I'm pleased to be single. So far, anyway.
Multiple births run in families. If your mother's family has a history of non-identical twins, then you are far more likely to have twins yourself. If two eggs are released and fertilized at the same time, then the twins will be non-identical or fraternal. In this case, the twins will be separated in the womb. They will also have separate placentas, and the blood flow to each twin is carefully monitored throughout pregnancy.
Twins, twins, alike as new pins. Like friendly neighbours living back to back, each with their own amniotic sac.
When an egg splits in two, identical twins are formed. In this case, twins will be in the same sac in the womb and will share a placenta. Identical twins show early contact at 12 weeks, and by 14 weeks are touching arms, legs, bodies, and mouths. This constant contact in the womb is mirrored in early life, and is partly responsible for the incredible close bonds that twins feel throughout their lives. Even though he won't be able to walk until he is around a year old, the building blocks to his first steps are there after just 11 weeks in the womb. These 4D scans show 10 and 11-week-old fetuses kicking and pushing out their legs in what is known as the stepping reflex. A reflex action is a pre-programmed biological impulse. When his feet touch the base of the uterus, the nervous system triggers an automatic muscle reaction in the legs.
I skip, I hop, look, I'm jumping. I tire, I stop. Listen, I'm thumping.
At this age, there is so much space in the uterus, the fetus bounces and leaps around using the walls of the womb as a trampoline. The ability to walk is an important survival skill, and the more the fetus moves, the stronger the reflex will grow.
I'm Humpty Dumpty without the wall, rockabye baby without the fall. I'm a rubber duck bouncing inside a rubber ball.
The period from 6 to 11 weeks has seen the most dramatic transformation of the entire pregnancy, with the fetus undergoing a metamorphosis from bean to human being. He has grown nearly 5 times bigger in a frantic 5-week burst. Over 200 different types of cell have been made and put in the right place. Muscles and nerves are twitching. There is a liver, 2 kidneys, and a stomach the size of a grain of rice. As they develop initially, male and female fetuses have identical genitals. Both sexes have a protuberance, which for boys will become a penis and for girls a clitoris. At 12 weeks, the only difference is that they stick out at different angles. Looking at an ultrasound, an expert might guess the sex of the baby based on this angle. But it will be a few more weeks before there's a clear difference between male and female genitals. But in each case, the sex organs will already be hard at work. A boy's testicles will be busy producing testosterone, and by the time a baby girl is born, her ovaries will have made her own lifetime supply of eggs. At this point, after 12 weeks, the fetus enters the second trimester, the middle 3 months of pregnancy. He is still less than 10 centimeters long, but having achieved his basic shape, and with the placenta mature, he is now less at risk of a miscarriage. Only 50% of fertilized eggs survive all the way through pregnancy. An imbalance in the immune system, stress, even the mother having previously given birth to a boy, all are factors that increase the risk.
My chances are 50-50. Not great odds, and that's only to get to the starting line. The human race is not for the faint-hearted, when half the runners are doomed to die before the race gets started.
From 16 weeks, as the brain extends its reach, the fetus begins to practice a wide range of intricate movement. He is much more mobile now. Muscles are flexing, fingers and toes are separate and defined, and bones are hardening.
A hand. I think I've grown a hand on what appeared to be a tentacle. And look, there's another. That's good. It means the first has a brother that's identical. Touchers and feelers, holders and hitters, grippers and graspers, growers and killers. Open in greeting, wrung in despair, clenched in fury, steepled in prayer.
Hands develop before the feet. This could be because hands are going to be used first once the baby is born.
What's this? Another pair of hands? Over-egging the pudding, if you ask me. Feet? Oh, I see. Wonder what they're for. I know. This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed at home. This little piggy had roast beef. This little piggy had none. This little piggy.
The fetus is beginning to develop an awareness of the space around him. It's called proprioception. This unconscious sense of body in space helps us to interact with our environment. We take in information from a variety of sensory organs, eyes, ears, nose, and limbs, and we build up a mental understanding of the outside world. As we grow, we take for granted the ability to coordinate our movements, to stand without falling over, to run and jump and roll down a hill. We have an understanding of where our body is and what it's doing that's been developed and refined over the course of our early lives from a constant system of feedback. This awareness and control is something we've been developing since we were in the womb. Sensors give constant feedback to the brain, and the movement can then be refined and gradually perfected.
Getting to know me. Getting to know all about me. The excitement is the discovery that I am not infinite, that I exist only as far as my extremities. Reassured by boundaries and edges, I welcome my limitations, celebrate my concinnity.
After just over 4 months of pregnancy, the mother may become aware of her growing baby's movements for the first time. Although the fetus has been active for quite some time, it's only now that the movements are strong enough for her to feel. Women who have previously been pregnant will be more alert to this slight fluttering sensation and may pick it up when the baby is just 15 weeks old. The eyes, now in their correct position, are generally thought to remain fused shut until 24 weeks. But 4D ultrasound has revealed some babies opening their eyes as early as 18 weeks. It's dark, of course, so there's nothing to see. But even if there were light, the eyes don't work this early. It's just the first sign of the blinking reflex.
Memo to myself. Practice seeing in the dark. Why? Because one day I suspect dark will be replaced by something else. Dark is heavy. Will the something else be lighter?
After 6 months of pregnancy, at the end of the second trimester, everything has developed and is functioning as it will in the fully grown baby. It's all there, just very small and immature. In the next phase, he will embark on one of the most dramatic challenges of his time in the womb, the development of the senses. The fetus is 6 months old now and has reached a major landmark. Though barely longer than his father's hand, it is possible that he could survive outside the cradle of the womb.
It's good to know that if push came to shove, I could give it a go out there. But I know I'm not ready. Haven't got what it takes. I'll hang a while on the bow. Wait till it breaks.
Any baby that is born prematurely faces an increased risk of brain damage. The big problem is the lungs, which are barely capable at this tender age of taking enough oxygen into the bloodstream to keep the baby alive. In Britain, the ability to survive outside the womb also informs the age limit on abortions. Terminations can currently be carried out until the fetus reaches 24 weeks.
What is? The egg fertilized. What is the point? The cell divided. What is the point at which the brain sparked? What is the point at which life, the heart pumped? What is the point at which life begins? The lungs inflated. What is the point? What is the point?
For most babies, as they enter the third trimester, it's time to put on some fat and learn how to work their bodies. The mother is becoming increasingly aware of movements made by the fetus. Her abdomen will be growing, and she is likely to be feeling better now than at any time throughout her pregnancy, and at her most energetic and active. From 24 weeks, the fetus enters one of the most exciting and dramatic periods of development as his senses flicker into life. Eyes, ears, nose, taste buds, and the nerves that respond to touch are now maturing. Throughout his life, they will be his key to the world beyond. They will allow him to develop a sense of self, to interact with others, to explore and to learn. During his time in the womb, the fetus's mouth and nasal passages are filled with amniotic fluid. Strong flavors from the mother's food will easily pass through the placenta into the baby's bloodstream and will then be passed out into the amniotic fluid, and the baby can get an early taste and smell of his mother's cooking.
Is this what taste is? A sparkle on the tongue? A caress sometimes? A sensation so sweet I want to become it? Sometimes a surprise. Ugh. And a nasty one at that. Tongue, stop it. Tongue, you're hurting me. That's better. Sweetness. Ah, yes. I could acquire a taste for taste.
One reason for having such an advanced sense of taste and smell while still in the womb is to help establish breastfeeding when the baby is born. Just like the amniotic fluid, breast milk will contain a selection of tastes and smells from the mother's food. So if the baby is already familiar with these flavors and likes the taste, this will encourage him to latch on to his mother's nipple and begin feeding. This 4D scan shows a 24-week-old fetus opening and closing his eyes. Although the eyes are fully formed by halfway through the pregnancy, seeing is the one sense a fetus can't experience until he's born. It's too dark in the womb. It's possible that some very bright light could penetrate into the uterus, direct sunlight for instance, and the fetus may be able to detect a faint glow. But the uterus wall is so thick, buried under a layer of skin and fat, that most of the time the fetus evolves in total darkness.
I think that I can see, although all that I can see is nothingness. I will outstare it. I will make the darkness blink. Look for shapes and movement in this endless night. Light. What is light, I wonder? Without it, sight will be a gift I cannot use.
At 25 weeks, the eyes are so intricate that even the eyelashes have grown. But there is one detail that may not fully develop however much time the fetus spends inside the womb: the colour of the eyes. Some pigments need light to form properly, and the baby's eyes may change colour during the first months of life. Babies of Asian or African descent will usually be born with brown or dark grey eyes that mature to deep brown or black. A Caucasian baby will almost always have blue eyes in the womb, even if they're destined to become green or brown. Perhaps the most keenly developed of all the fetal senses is hearing. The fetus may be completely surrounded by amniotic fluid, but because sound travels through fluid about 4 times faster than it does in air, he has plenty to hear. A cacophony of sloshes, beats and burps mark the passage of food, blood and air, in and out through the maze of passages and tubes, just inches from the baby's ears. The fetus can also hear noises from the world outside. Conversations, loud noises and music, filtered and distorted through the mother's abdomen. Higher sounds will be most muffled by the layers of skin and fat. Only the lower, bass notes of a piece of music will have much impact. Generally lower in pitch than consonants, so the fetus will just hear the melody of speech without the percussion of consonants.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word is my beginning. Floating, I'm caressed by the lapping of sound waves, rocked by the rhythm of lullabies. Words. My father and mother are talking me into life. Bathed and soothed, I become human in a sea of language.
Excellent. Good luck. See you later. Bye.
The sound of the mother's voice is different from any other, since it travels directly through the fluids of the body. This may help the baby develop the very different kind of relationship with its mother from anyone else.
I haven't spoken to you since, but I spoke to him because I need to get a passport named number off him, and he said I'm in trouble. So I said, you're always in trouble.
For the last couple of months, since the fetus was about 16 weeks old, he's been exploring the feel of his limited world. His sense of touch is so advanced now that he'll react if prodded through his mother's belly.
Until now, I thought I was the universe, that everything that is was within me. But now that I can touch these walls, I realize I must be deep inside a greater universe. There is a world beyond, and I am in a world within a world within. Oh, it makes me tired. Thinking? Is this thinking? It doesn't get me anywhere.
Along with the development of touch comes the capacity to feel pain. During an ultrasound scan, it's sometimes necessary to maneuver the fetus into a better scanning position. Professor Campbell has seen fetuses grimace and frown as he manipulates them through the mother's abdomen.
Pain. This is one sense I could do without. Or could I? A warning signal that something's not right, that something out there might cause me harm. A built-in, uncomfortable safety alarm.
During the final trimester, the fetus must prepare for life outside his comforting cocoon. Apart from being physically robust, he must also learn how to behave. Many of the tricks and skills he will use on the outside are innate reflexes that he can perfect in the womb. Some of these, like sucking, breathing, swallowing, he will depend upon for survival. Others are more baffling in their origin. to sudden sounds with the startle reflex. The startle reflex is thought to have originated at a time when we were more at risk of being eaten. A sudden noise or touch from a predator will trigger the reflex and cause the arms to fling out to the side in what may be an attempt at self-preservation. During this trimester, the fetus will swallow up to half a litre of amniotic fluid every day. This will help its digestive system develop, but its main purpose is to practice swallowing ready for birth. From the moment the cord is cut, he will need to have perfected the art of taking food from his mouth to his stomach. Alongside swallowing, one of the most important reflexes to have perfected before birth is sucking. Anything vaguely nipple-sized that comes close to his mouth will trigger his attempts at the sucking reflex.
Why do I breathe when there's no air? Why swallow when there's no food? Why yawn when I'm not tired? Practice. Practice. What for? I haven't the faintest. I'm putting my body through its paces. The race is on. Rehearsing, rehearsing for the big one. Which big one? I haven't the faintest.
At 26 weeks, the fetus measures 25 centimeters from head to bottom. As he moves through the third trimester towards birth, the fetus will triple his weight and double his length. There will continue to be dramatic growth in the brain and nervous system, and the fetus will create his first memory. By week 26, it may just be possible to hear the fetal heartbeat by putting your ear against the mother's abdomen.
Did you kick him?
It's quite loud.
The fetus's heart beats about twice as fast as the mother's. Monitoring the baby's heartbeat gives a good indication of his general condition.
Yeah. It's more of a vibration, really. I feel it moving a lot. And feel it.
The mother's heart rate and blood pressure are directly affected by her emotional state, and her moods can be passed on to her baby.
mother thinking. I eavesdrop, not on words, but on what she is feeling. I can hear my mother thinking. I am imbued with her nostalgia, brainwashed by her longings.
If she's calm, the mother's heart will slow down and her blood pressure will drop. If she's tense and stressed, her heart will beat faster and her blood pressure will rise. Although the fetus has his own separate blood supply, these increases in heart rate and blood pressure are easily passed through the placenta and have a direct impact on the baby. It takes a while for the effects to filter through, but when the mother is recovering from the impact of stress and her heart rate is returning to normal, her baby's heart begins to race as the physiological effects of stress creep through the placenta. In the short term, stress in the mother can lead to low birth weight or premature birth. But it's also possible that a mother's prolonged anxiety and stress can be passed on, establishing a tendency for stress in the child and making him more likely to develop chronic health problems, heart disease, diabetes, as an adult. It can even have a harmful effect on the child's mental development in the early years of his life.
Mother, when you're stressed, then I am too. You may not mean to, but you do. Can't you keep anxiety to yourself? Passed on, it deepens, like a coastal shelf.
By now, the mother will be feeling her baby move every day. Usually, this will be the fetus kicking or pushing, but sometimes she may feel the regular twitch of her baby's hiccups. Why we hiccup is a bit of a mystery. There is a theory that it's a reflex to help a newborn baby latch onto its mother's nipple. Hiccups are an involuntary, sudden contraction of the diaphragm. The spasm of a fetus's hiccup is strong enough to feel, but because the fetus lives in fluid, there is no hiccup sound. The last of the major organs to form are the lungs. They serve no purpose before birth. The fetus gets all the oxygen he needs from his mother's blood via the placenta. Inside his lungs, the branching network of tubes are filled with amniotic fluid, and the tiny air sacs that extract oxygen remain closed for the entire time in the womb. But the fetus still makes breathing movements with his fluid-filled lungs. This helps the diaphragm and chest muscles practice, ready to expand and fill the lungs with air the moment the baby is born.
breath becomes a habit, will it be difficult to break?
At 28 weeks, the baby is more than 2/3 of the way through his time in the womb and is gaining weight fast as he lays down a layer of fat under his skin. His senses are buzzing, and over the next 4 weeks, his nervous system will become as advanced as a newborn baby's. He is becoming increasingly aware of the world around him. His brain has matured enough to support consciousness, and for the first time, he is beginning to create memory.
And the dish ran away with the spoon. Hey diddle diddle, the cat playing fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. The cow jumped over the little dog laughed to see.
During one experiment in fetal memory, mothers were asked to repeat a nursery rhyme each day during the final month of pregnancy.
The little dog laughed to see such fun. The cow jumped over the moon. Hey diddle diddle.
At the end of the experiment, the fetus's heart rate would slow down when it heard the same rhyme. A new, unfamiliar rhyme, on the other hand, would produce no response. This was evidence of long-term memory at work before a baby is born.
The cow jumped over the moon.
In the back of my mind is a feeling I'm going very slightly blind, but in the front.
The type of music his parents listen to can alter the baby's mood. Fast music will stimulate and excite him. Music that is closest to the natural sounds and rhythms of the human voice, such as classical or choral music, will have a sedating, calming effect.
Shall I tell you what I like? Choral music sung with feeling. Rock and roll played too loud will have me banging on the ceiling. Give me a steady beat and I'll dance. But what I prefer is a slow pulse. Music that calms, that almost hypnotizes. Shall I tell you what I don't like? Surprises.
At 33 weeks, the fetus may recognize a particular piece of music and can even jump in time to it.
Can hardly speak, I understand.
Where once it seemed that the mental development of a baby began at birth, now it appears birth could be a relatively insignificant event in developmental terms. There is very little difference between the brain of a newborn baby and that of a 32-week-old fetus. He may have to support himself after birth, but as for the process of thinking, learning, and remembering, he will already have been hard at work for 3 months.
It's like there are two of us. The real me, the one you can't see, who thinks and feels and loves and looks ahead. And the one you see, who lags behind, a victim of appetites and strange desires, bodily needs I can only guess at. Looking ahead, I see it now. A lifetime of being held back and weighed down. Will I ever be free of that me?
The final phase of pregnancy is a demanding one for the mother. Many women feel uncomfortable during the last couple of months. The weight of the baby, together with pressure on the spine and a battle for space, can all cause back and legs to ache. She may be feeling anxious about the birth and is likely to feel breathless as her lungs struggle to absorb 20% more oxygen than normal. During this stage, babies spend about 90% of their time asleep. And when they sleep, nothing will wake them.
Look at me, sleeping like a babe. I'm practicing to be a teenager.
One of the things revealed by the 4D scans is the fact that babies have REM, rapid eye movement sleep, a period of sleep where the eyes flick around behind the eyelids. Later in life, we know this is an indication of dreaming. This gentle flicker of an eye could be a sign that the fetus, still with a month to go before even being born, is already dreaming. In adulthood, dreaming plays a vital role in allowing us to make sense of events around us and to develop strategies to deal with the world. In a fetus, dreaming, however simple the dreams, may be the crucial process that stimulates the brain to grow and develop.
What do I dream of? I dream my mother's dreams. I dream my mother, she dreams me. I dream about our past, our future, what it may bring. I hear my mother crying, I hear her sing. I dream about our past, our future, what it may bring. I hear my mother crying, I hear her sing. I hear my mother crying, I hear her sing.
Each minute, the fetus makes 2.5 million nerve cells. And now, after 8 months, His brain is filled with more than 100 billion neurons, with 100 trillion connections, as many as there are stars in our galaxy. The baby's brain and head have grown as big as they can in the womb, and still be able to squeeze through his mother's pelvis. As he puts on fat, he is taking more resources than she can provide. It's time to emerge. The countdown is on. It's impossible to tell when the baby will be born exactly. Only 5% of babies are born on their due date. Most will emerge any time 2 weeks either side of that. The mother is kept guessing and waiting for signs.
The contractions are coming faster now. Every few heartbeats or so, a crush of pain made bearable only by the certainty of its passing. My mother's leaving me, I know. At journey's end, a show. It must go on. The floodgates open. A universe implodes.
Nobody knows what exactly initiates labour, but it's the baby's lungs, together with the placenta, that are the key to the timing. When the lungs are mature, they secrete a protein into the amniotic fluid that alters the placenta's production of hormones. It slows the release of progesterone and triggers the release of a new hormone, oxytocin, which kickstarts the contractions of the uterus wall, and labour begins. Oxytocin also inhibits memory and may have a role in helping women to forget the pain of birth and to bond with their new babies. During the first stage of labour, the baby's head is locked in the bottom of the uterus and is bearing down on the cervix, the barrier between the uterus and the vagina. The last thing to pass through the cervix was a tiny sperm 38 weeks ago. Now it must stretch 10 centimetres wide to allow the baby's head, its largest part, to pass through.
The pain, oh the pain. My time has come, the end is near. I can't complain. It comes to us all, and I've enjoyed the adventure. Is there life after birth, I wonder? A light at the end of the tunnel? I'll find out soon enough when I pass into the hereafter and meet my maker.
Wonderful. You okay? Slow down. Slow your breathing down. The pain's gone.
For the mother,
Breathe away.
the pain of birth can be
Breathe
eased
out.
if she gives birth standing up, sitting or squatting, rather than lying on her back.
Listen.
This can also speed up the first stage
Keep
of
going.
labour and reduce the likelihood of
Keep
medical
going.
intervention
Don't give up.
or a caesarean. Labour is also painful and stressful for the baby. The squashing of the umbilical cord can easily constrict the supply of oxygen. To help the baby cope, His body releases large quantities of adrenaline to keep his heart pumping fast enough. Adrenaline also helps prepare the lungs for the lifetime of work they're about to begin. Once the cervix is fully opened, the second stage of labour, the actual delivery, begins. With each contraction of the uterus, the baby is pushed further through the cervix and the vagina, until eventually his head is just visible.
Baby's head's just coming here now. You can feel it, darling. Bit more.
The contractions are only minutes apart now, and after each one, the midwife encourages the mother to push down hard to help squeeze the baby out.
Good girl. Bigger push. Wonderful. Good girl. A little bit more for me. Wonderful. Good girl. Keep going. Bit more. Bit more. Bit more. Bit more. Oh, awesome. Good girl. Breathe now, breathe. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Good girl. Here's your baby. Your baby's head. Just checking the cord, darling. Next contraction, we'll have this baby out, okay? I think he's got a hand here as well. He's brought a hand out with him. Right. You got a contraction yet, darling? Okay, darling, give me a big push. Oh, awesome, my girl. Here we go. Here you are. Hello. Annie's.
As soon as the baby is delivered, his lungs drain of fluid and air rushes in, expanding the air sacs. And in an instant, begin extracting oxygen to keep the baby alive.
Okay, now what we're going to do is pop him through here. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Good. Wonderful.
All his vital life systems are now working independently, and the umbilical cord can be cut.
Just in between there, Dad. It's a bit chompy, so just a bit cut. There we go.
The placenta is now redundant, and in the third stage of labour, it detaches from the uterus wall and follows the baby out through the vagina. After growing painstakingly inside her womb for 9 months, the baby finally comes face to face with his mother. The smile seen inside the womb has gone now, as the baby is thrust into a noisy, bright world and starts to feel uncomfortable sensations such as cold and hunger for the first time. He won't smile again until he's at least 4 weeks old. Each year, across the world, around 130 million women go through the complex cycle of pregnancy and birth. Our increasingly sophisticated understanding of the process has dramatically reduced the risks. Ironically, it is the one thing that allows us this understanding, our large brains, that is mainly responsible for the difficulties of human childbirth in the first place. Most mammals with smaller brains and heads have a much easier time delivering their offspring. Their infants are also more advanced than our helpless babies, often able to walk, feed, and escape from predators immediately after birth. For a human baby to be this advanced, its mother would have to bear a 21-month pregnancy and then give birth to a toddler. Having been cocooned for 9 months, this little boy is now on his own. His parents will feed him and keep him warm, but for the first time, his body must keep itself alive. His birth marks the beginning of his journey in the world. But he has already travelled an incredible path during his 9-month odyssey in the womb.
What is? The egg fertilized. What is the point? The cell divided. What is the point at which the brain sparked? What is the point at which life, the heart pumped? What is the point at which life begins? The lungs inflated? What is the point? Is this the point? Into the real world at last. But is it any more real than the one he has left, he may ask? But these aren't a baby's thoughts. This isn't his voice but mine. He has yet to find his. He who went from isn't into is, now prepares for will be. A mystery, a miracle, a spring about to be uncurled, a newborn baby, a gift from his father and his mother to the world.